to get ready for the only track final we have today on ladies' first day, the women's 10,000 meters. Lisa Kolde is the collegiate record holder. Sylvia Mosqueda still the meet record holder, and Carissa Schweitzer with by far the best time in the country amongst collegians this year. She is in this race, and she will be doubling back on Saturday in the 5,000 as well.
She told me that what she has learned about herself, especially going into this 10K and making sure that she focuses on it, is that she's actually ready to double, but she can't do it until she wins this race. So everything right now is the mental prep that she needs to do in this race and navigate through it, see where she wants to make moves, and we've got 25 laps to find out.
And 24 athletes on the track. They got here 12 each from the East and West regionals just 2.5 weeks ago. And several of these athletes, let me see if I can count real quickly. Looks like about a handful, just 3 or 4 are going to double back in the 5,000, including that woman right there with the braids. That's not Charlotte Taylor I'm thinking of right now, but that's Carissa Schweitzer. But Charlotte Taylor is worth talking about. She is the defending champion.
She's also a 3-time All-American, and also in this race from New Mexico is Alice Wright, who was 2nd in this meet last year and in 2006. Alice Wright is currently in the lead in the blue top and the red bottoms from New Mexico State. She's coached by Joe Franklin at UNM. This race has already strung out. We had talked earlier when we were talking in the steeplechase heats, when they're bunched up, the pace goes out a little bit slow. And when you have this many women in the race, it can get a little dicey and can get dangerous as far as spiking goes. So they want to make sure that they keep an honest pace and keep it strung out.
Schweitzer right there, a classic front runner, but right now just biding her time. She doesn't necessarily take the lead early on, but she does like to lead when she feels that the pace is lagging ever so slightly. The Missouri senior is going out with a bang, attempting one of the hardest doubles at these championships. Only 5 women have done it before. It is still Alice Wright leading, and they're about on 31:50 pace through the first 1,600 meters, and Carissa Schweitzer seems to think that that's okay. Otherwise, she would have taken over and done something about it, as well as Charlotte Taylor being right there as well. Both Schweitzer and Taylor will be doubling back in the 5,000 meters. So with about 20 laps remaining, we will step aside, bring you a lot more of this 10,000 when we come back after this break. All right, John, they're going to be coming up on 17 laps to go when they come down the straightaway again. Not a lot has changed. It continues to be Alice Wright in the lead from New Mexico, the senior who was runner-up at this distance last year. 9th in the indoor 5,000, 14th at the NCAA cross-country championships. But the woman in 2nd place, Carissa Schweitzer, finally a senior at Mizzou, has quite a resume. Look at the things that she has done while at Columbia. And she's trying to add a couple more right here. Of course, she's on the Bowerman watch list. That's the Heisman of track and field. They will make that determination at the end of the year in December. Mizzou having just joined the SEC recently. She's already a 7-time SEC champion. So it is Alice Wright and senior Carissa Schweitzer. She is planning to make this meet something memorable. She plans to go out with a bang.
Exactly what she just talked about, being able to practice those moves based off of what they have done in her workouts to either sit and kick or take the pace out. And as Alice Wright continues to lead, and Carissa Schweitzer right behind her in the white jersey. I believe I owe Alice Wright an apology. I transferred her schools earlier and said New Mexico State. She clearly runs for New Mexico. And right now, Carissa Schweitzer, who's in the all-white in 2nd, is just biding her time. She has a fantastic kick. And this race, in its entirety, it's about distributing your energy. You've got to have a resource throughout 25 laps. Make sure you're not going into an anaerobic state of physical condition early in, and then the pace variations. There's about a pack of 12 girls that have separated themselves from another pack in the middle of 4, and then the rest of them are spread around the track. But being able to handle that pace variation, and it usually is slow to a little bit faster in that moderate race, and then in the end there's a lot of negative splitting. You will see women coming through in much faster 400-meter times than these 400-meter laps right here.
Especially if Carissa Schweitzer decides that she's tired of this pace and takes it over on her own. She will hammer a few laps there in the middle and break everybody. We've seen her do it indoors in the 3 and the 5, and outdoors in the 5 as well. But that group in front hanging in there. There's a lot of potential scorers there. Remember, they scored to 8th place, and there's more than 8 runners in this lead pack. But Alice Wright continuing to lead. Carissa Schweitzer right there, and then Charlotte Taylor, the defending champion, right there in 3rd place. And it's been that for most of this race, which is not yet half over.
15 laps still remaining, and Carissa Schweitzer's coach told me that when she came into college, she only had one pace. She was literally like a racehorse. He referenced the Kentucky Derby and said when the gates opened, she just went out like a shot. She didn't know how to have that pace variation, and the one thing that she has done very well over the years is to learn how to not just control that physically, but control it mentally. We have seen her go out in the lead all by herself most of the races this year, and then end up having to lap women. And I asked her, what goes through your mind when you are out there all by yourself? She said, honestly, I don't think about what's happening when I go out into the lead. I'm thinking about how I'm going to set it up to take the lead. That's where most of my mental strength and preparation comes from, is when I'm about to make the move. Once I make the move, I'm good.
Coming up on 14 laps remaining. Temperatures drop down into the 60s now, 68 degrees as the shadows on the west stand start to creep across the infield. And it remains still Alice Wright of New Mexico, Carissa Schweitzer of Missouri, and Charlotte Taylor of San Francisco. I'm still running right around 32-minute pace for the entire distance, but that's still a long time from now.
Charlotte Taylor in the lead right now with the yellow and green jersey on, is also doubling back on Saturday and will run the 5K as well. That's
Anna Rohrer of Notre Dame, the sophomore, in 3rd place. And Alice Wright starting to pay the price from leading for so long, maybe just taking a break. She's still right in that group of now 6 athletes. Dropped off from about 10 or 12 athletes just a few laps ago. This is the part of the race I was talking about earlier where that pace really changes. That slow, very kind of wait and see, sit and kick through the first 1,600 meter has now gone all over the track as this group of women that you see on your screen is about to lap one of the runners for the first time. So the pace changing and being able to handle that, now going from a slower start into this moderate, getting ready to set up for a kick, even though there's still 10 laps to go. They went out just under 16:09 for 5K, so if they were to keep the pace honest, they do have a shot at this 30-year-old meet record by Sylvia Mosqueda from Cal State LA of 32:28:57. And that might be in the back of the minds of a couple of these seniors, amongst them Charlotte Taylor as well as Carissa Schweitzer and Alice Wright, all seniors. And Alice hammering that pace early on, might have had that on her mind. But it's about winning. It's not about the time. And you get to championship race. Looks like Charlotte Taylor looking for a little help. Wants to see if anybody's interested in taking over the leading duties. I'm not seeing any takers. She did. She peeked over her shoulder a couple times with still 9 laps to go. Again, this is where this moderate pace starts to pick up a little bit. And you will see a tiny bit of jockeying back and forth. But I will assume, because of the way she has raced all year and what we have seen, that Carissa Schweitzer will get a little tired of this in the next couple laps and make a move. But this is the part of her race, currently sitting now in 2nd in the white jersey, that she said that that's where she mentally preps for, is now I need to know when I need to make that race. And she said she actually doesn't go through and think, okay, I need to go through a 1K, 2K, 5K. She actually prepares this race in 10-minute blocks.
I said, what do you think about from 10 minutes to 10 minutes? She said, I just think of it as championship racing. It's like going out and going for a workout. It's like, okay, 10 minutes are down. Okay, another 10 minutes are down. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, this group of 6 includes the first, second, and third placers from last year. This event is about to wind it up. This group of 6 has been together for quite some time now, but Carissa Schweitzer has now picked up the leading duties, but isn't really pressing the pace yet. She leads over Charlotte Taylor, the defending champion from San Francisco, Anna Rohrer, the Notre Dame sophomore, and Sharon Lokedi of Kansas, who was the third placer last year. Alice Wright is still hanging in there. She forged a very good early race pace, probably the first 10 or 11 laps of this race, setting it up for a possible meet record.
Look at the look on Carissa Schweitzer's face in front in the white Mizzou jersey. There is absolutely no strain, no anything. It's almost like she's out just for a walk in the park. What's interesting about this group of 6 women is when Carissa Schweitzer makes that move, who's going to go with her? Because she does have one of the best kicks that you see in a 10,000.
And Aurora now looks like she wants to press the pace a little bit more. And Charlotte Taylor right there, but nobody really ready to break it open yet. As we come down to 5 laps remaining, plenty of racing left to do, and they're starting to pick off runners, which complicates things a little bit.
This is the last 5 laps that I was talking about in the beginning. When you start out with that 25, that very slow pace through those first 10, 11 laps, and then the moderate pace picking up. And then this group of 6 now, you can even tell by the gait of their legs. The gait is the distance in between their stride patterns. It's getting a little bit quicker. It's starting to lengthen out a little bit. And now you're seeing this group of 6 not as bunched. They're starting to go in a single file line.
Following tightly behind her.
So the Notre Dame sophomore, who was 16th in this race last year as a freshman, stringing things out a little bit, which brings in the possibility of a meet record. More so, they're just about 4 or 5 seconds under that record that has endured for 30 years. So let's set this group of 6. Anna Rohrer, the sophomore from Notre Dame, pressing the pace now. Charlotte Taylor, who will double back in the 5,000 on Saturday. The defending champion is second. Carissa Schweitzer of Mizzou is third. Sharon Lokedi of Kansas, third place last year, is fourth. Alice Wright of New Mexico, who was the runner-up last year, in fifth. And then Louisville freshman Dorcas Wasicki is pulling up the rear of this group of 6 with now less than 4 laps remaining.
We've seen some of these distance race records that have stood forever start to go down in the last couple years alone. Jim Ryan's record went down here a few years ago, and then that record actually was just broke on the men's side earlier this year. And these women that have the ability to come out here, and it's all because of the training. I've asked coaches, why are now this next generation of athletes able to set and break these 25 and 30-year-old records? It's because there's so much information out there. There's so much more training patterns. You can actually get into VO2 max and what your body needs to do to stay in an aerobic state and not an aerobic state, to be able to pace yourself and make sure that you are at optimal everything when running a race this long.
I also believe that the success of the U.S. women at World Championship and Olympic level is also driving this, because that is inspiring when they see women who were just in college a few years ago winning medals at that level. They feel like, hey, maybe I can do that as well. And 15 or so years ago, that was not the case. Up to 3 laps to go, and Carissa Schweitzer now back into the lead. And Charlotte Taylor covers that move very nicely, as does Sharon Lokedi.
And Lokedi and Wasik are the only 2 of that pack of 6 that hasn't had the lead at some point throughout the lead changes we've seen in the last couple laps.
Wasicki, Dorcas Wasicki now making a move back from 6th now into 4th. And Alice Wright now pulling up the rear of that group of 6.
Sharon Lokedi, the junior out of Kansas, another one of these women that is doubling back on Saturday to run the 5K, has now put herself up into the position. The top 3 are starting to have a tiny bit of separation, maybe about 2 meters from the last 3.
Lokedi looks very strong and confident there in position number 3. Carissa Schweitzer, you never know. Sometimes when she gets a little bit tired, her head will cock to the right ever so slightly, but that has not happened yet. But I think she's wondering, okay, now what? Now I'm in the lead. I come out with 2 laps to go. I've got people behind me who do have some leg speed.
And look at Charlotte Taylor from San Francisco sitting in second in the yellow top and the green bottoms. Her facial expression hasn't changed in the last couple laps. Very relaxed as Lokedi now has passed her and is going to go with, or try to go with, Carissa as Carissa starts to make a little bit more of an effort on this backstretch. This is where you will start to see some separation.
We're starting to see a little bit of a hitch in the right arm of Carissa Schweitzer. She's starting to press, and there goes the head to the right a little bit. We've seen this before, but she's got somebody right there with her who, by the way, looks very, very good right now.
Extremely comfortable does Lokedi look in the blue, baby blue and the pink. Look at her stride pattern. There is no deviation on her lower body. Everything is staying very still and quiet, almost like her hips are on a rail as she comes around. There's not a lot of bouncing up and down, and there's no arm movement going side to side as Carissa's are starting to go side to side. When you are tired and you have run this long, the more efficient you can keep your levers up and down without that outside side-to-side movement is critical.
For Carissa Schweitzer, this is the penultimate lap of her penultimate collegiate race, and Lokedi has just moved into the lead and looking much stronger than the Missouri senior.
Carissa Schweitzer's face starting to grimace, and we'll see if she has anything left in the tank in this last 400 meters, but Lokedi is pulling away.
And she's doing exactly what she should do. She passed definitively and is lengthening her lead. Dorcas Wasicki now also passing Schweitzer, and we're really looking good for a meet record here. Lokedi is in full flight now. Dorcas Wasicki trying to chase her. The freshman from Louisville still has a head of steam, but I'm not certain she can bridge that gap. Schweitzer does not have an answer. She'll be fortunate to hang on for 3rd. But Lokedi probably has the meet record in the bag. A 30-year-old meet record by Sylvia Mosqueda of Cal State Los Angeles is about to go down.
Wow. And closing even faster than she did on that backstretch. Look at the knee lift that Lokedi has. She has a tiny bit of grimace on her face, but still that very solid running speed that we just saw in those last 2 laps, she picks it up.
Lokedi wins it and obliterates the meet record, 32:08. She beats it by 20 seconds, as does Dorcas Wasicki and Carissa Schweitzer. Charlotte Taylor, the defending champion, also right there. An outstanding race, and several women who are responsible for taking down this meet record.
That was an amazingly paced race by those top 6 runners all the way around, even with the lead changes.
The top 5 all broke the old meet record. And you've got to give a lot of credit to Alice Wright, who forged the pace early on for most of the first half of the race. Anna Rohrer in 6th place also broke the old meet record.
The top 2 finishers in that race, Dwight, never led until just now.
So a very entertaining 10,000 meters as Alice Wright congratulates the Kansas junior who just broke the meet record and wins the title here at our only track final of the day. Sharon Lokedi wins it with 32:09.20 and leads the first 6 under the old meet record. Carissa Schweitzer in 3rd will come back on Saturday to contest the 5,000.